Good evening, everybody. If you would like to join us in the pledge and the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here today, help us to remember the purpose for this meeting is to try to do those things which are the best for the county, to try to take care of those people who take care of us, and to do that which is your will. We thank you for the beautiful days. We thank you for being close to the end of budget season, and we give you all the grace and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
And at this time, if you would turn off your cell phones. Otherwise, you may be bidding on somebody's salary and you'd have to pay it for a year, okay? Okay, at this point, we're ready to start with the public hearings for various different budgets that we have to oversee, that we are the binding review for. So at this point, we will start with the Turkey Creek Conservancy. And I don't believe anybody here is here to present it. Then the council is the binding review body for the Conservancy. We received the preliminary report and approved that budget at the last council meeting held August 25th, previously with the proposed amount to be collected at $262,900, and that includes everything before any cuts were made, so that was just their proposed budget at that point. At this point, we will open that hearing. Is there anyone here from the public to speak in favor of that budget? Is there anybody here to speak in favor? Seeing no one rise, is there anyone here from the public to speak against that budget? Anyone to speak against? Seeing no one, I need a motion and a second to close the public portion of the budget hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close this portion of the budget hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying your name and your vote. You want to start with Kim?
Kimberly Cates, yay.
John Garber, yay.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Okay, so that motion carries to close that portion of the budget hearing. The council will approve the final adoption of this at our 6 o'clock meeting on the 13th of October. Moving right along to the Syracuse Public Library. The reason why they have to appear today is because their original estimates were more than 5%, which was the max levy. That's the reason for them being here. So at this time, anything you'd like to share with us?
Last year, we made a mistake and passed a zero budget.
Okay.
And so this is we had to do additional appropriations, but
Sure.
it was within it wasn't something the council had to approve, our board could pass it. And so when I was doing the budget this year, our building needs a lot of repairs, and we've had a lot of problems. And so we had over $100,000 in the rainy day fund, and so I wanted to appropriate some of that, or a lot of that money, for building repairs and other kinds of improvements. So that's why it's higher.
Okay. Okay, having heard what you had to say, you would be the person speaking in favor of it. Do we have anybody who is here to speak against the budget for the Syracuse Public Library? Anybody here to speak against? Hearing none, I would need a motion and a second to close the public portion of this budget hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second around the table.
Kimberly Cates, yay.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Moving right along, we're ready for the solid waste budget public hearing. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Council. Good evening.
Good evening. At this point, we'll be opening the hearing for their solid waste budget.
Thank you. Again, my name's Tom Ganser. I'm the director at the Solid Waste District. I guess one word kind of opens up this budget, and it's uncertainty. We have definitely some uncertainties that are going on within the district. One being our revenue. We've always been, I guess, lucky enough to get funded through host fees. What we've seen over the last 5 to 6 years with the transition of the landfill from advanced over to GFL is most of the work that was going into that landfill has transitioned over to Waste Management's transfer. That's a good thing, right? We're not filling up our landfill with extra volume. So we have lifespan. It's a good thing. On my standpoint, it's not such a good thing because funding comes down. We've seen close to $270,000 reduction in our revenue compared to 2018. Again, that means 175,000 tons is being saved for later, which only helps local businesses around here with having that volume available to them down the road. The other piece that's uncertain in this budget is our line item 300,093, which is the, 300,061, which is recycling services. Well, we'll know more about that come next Tuesday. We've got a bid out for it. It was a 3-year bid, and I know you guys probably don't tune into this. I know Mike does, but we went from $58 a ton on our drop-off recycling program. We are now at $195 per ton. With that, our volume has gone from 2020 at about 1,500 tons a year. We're approaching 1,900 tons a year. So it's a good thing in the fact that we're seeing more people recycle. It's a bad thing in the fact that the costs are up and the tons are up too. So the budget in front of you reflects these things. And that's really the uncertainties. Next Tuesday, we'll open up those bids. Hopefully, we'll see some relief where we've seen some of these recycle markets improve. The fact of the matter is we got kicked in the teeth now with transportation costs and quite honestly, labor. Tough for these guys to find CDL drivers. So that's my portion of what's going on in solid waste and the budget that's in front of you.
The good news is you've had a pretty long run, pretty good.
We
So,
have,
yeah,
and
so-
we've got a little bit of
Yeah.
wiggle room in the back. So we're hoping, we are negotiating right now with GFL on trying to rewrite the host agreement. So that could help, but on the backside of it, it's a waiting
Sure.
to see kind of game.
Sure.
Tom, I have a question. You have,
Yeah, John.
under capital improvements, your recycling station improvements showed quite a large increase. What do you have in mind for that?
You know, one of the big things that we fight, John, is contamination. Quite honestly, just straight up dumping. One of the biggest improvements we've made was HD cameras out at the Warsaw site. What you're seeing there is the improvement of putting cameras also out at Syracuse. So we'll have some remote cameras. It's new technology that's coming out. But man, if we can monitor those sites, typically we're taking in about 34 tons a month in just garbage. So, and that's with the 3 sites, North Webster, Warsaw, and Syracuse, represents about 70% of our volume. So if we could get cameras on there and start monitoring that, we could look at a reduction of about 5,000 tons, which would equate to a lot of money on us.
I can appreciate that. When I was with the Parks Department, we put out a dumpster to collect recyclable material, and we did get a lot of garbage in it.
Always.
It was a pain.
Always. Education is big, but sometimes people just don't care. And that's what we're really trying to curb.
So we have heard you speak in favor. Excuse me. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak against this budget? Anyone to speak against? Hearing none, I would call for a motion and a second to close the public portion of the budget hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kimberly, it's your turn.
Oh, Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Tom.
you.
Okay, moving right along, we're doing the same thing now for the county's budget. The county council held a meeting August 25th for the purpose of addressing budget cuts and approving budgets. There are a few items that need to be clarified before we move to the next step. One is a clarification on the amount for the nonprofits. The day that we worked on it, there were two typographical errors that were my dancing fingers. It was not the auditor's office, it was my dancing fingers that caused them. I'll take full responsibility for that. So before you, you have the amounts that we approved for each one, and what was approved, and I suppose we probably do need to explain that. What was approved was whatever a nonprofit requested, if it was under 4%, they were given that 4%. But if they did not ask for up to 4%, they were given exactly what they requested. And if they requested more than 4%, they were only given 4%. That's about as simple a way as I can think of to explain it. And we did approve that at the meeting that we had. But I think for clarification's sake, we probably do need to say now that we're ready to adopt this amended list for the nonprofits.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kimberly?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Motion carried. Moving right along, the next thing that we want to just address is the community corrections and clarification on the action that was taken by the council. There was some confusion as to what exactly the classification was going to be, and so I think all the council was clear on it, but perhaps others may not have been 100% clear on where we were going. What was decided is that the probation, or not the probation, I'm sorry, the home detention officers would be listed as a civilian poll as they are currently. We would add $1,500 to their wage for 22, which then brought their wage to $42,177. And then for 23, we would apply the 4% increase that we gave to all other employees, which would bring their wage to $43,864. And the bottom line with that says that they, over the 2-year period, they got a $3,187 increase in what their wages were. We believe that there was some kind of a disconnect with the company that we used to study salaries, and perhaps they were not looking at what our salary schedule actually was. Perhaps they were looking at something else. We don't know at this point, but we do know that had we gone with what their request was, which was a civilian poll 6, that would mean that by next year, the home detention people would be making more than the probation officer with the same amount of experience. And we believe that that was not fair nor equitable, nor did we believe that's how it should happen. The other thing, this was an issue where information had been presented after the cutoff for the budget in '22, and we did agree that we would go back and start those changes in salary with the additional $1,500 to it, to be retro back to July 1st of 2022. So they will be getting, the employees will be getting the difference there still in '22 to catch them up, to make their total salary for the year $42,177 for '22, with their salary at $43,864. Does anybody from the council have any questions or comments on that? And are we all understanding where we're at with that? So can you give me just a minute? Because we'll probably wait and do, if you have questions, or go ahead. It's fine. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. So the reason why I'm here tonight is because I was at the meeting last week when the vote was taken. The recommendation from the Wage Committee was to follow Wagner Erwin Shealy's recommendation, which at that time it was made as a Pat 1. Motion was made and seconded and approved at a Pat 1. I went up to a member of the auditor's office and asked, what's the difference between a Pat 1 and a civilian pool 6, which is what Wagner Erwin Shealy recommended. And it's quite a difference. I think Pat 1 goes around 70,000. So this other recommendation that was given by Wagner Erwin Shealy, which is the civilian pool 6, that salary is $45,490. I wanted to make sure that the clarification was presented that Wagner Erwin Shealy presented as a civilian pool 6, brought it to the attention of some county officers. And also, we had an executive committee meeting from the Community Corrections Advisory Board, which the judges are a part of. They're present in the room tonight. I was asked to present on behalf of the executive committee of the advisory board, just to make sure that the law in the state of Indiana is that the advisory board is required to follow or to create policies, procedures, and also salary recommendations, but not to be inconsistent with what's being used on other county employees. So as we all know, Wagner Erwin Shealy is something that we rely on for advice. And at that meeting that we did last week, Barry Andrews gave you all this. You remember the black folder. Well, in this black folder, it showed several counties, of which all these counties are Wagner Erwin Shealy advised on the salaries. So you can see there that we are substantially less than the other counties. Also in this packet, Mr. Andrews gave you a copy of the probation officer's salaries. On a third-year salary for a probation officer, it's $45,634. Wagner Erwin Shealy's recommendation is $45,000 and change. So it's equal. It's not more than. It's maybe by a few $100s. Also, we brought up the fact that on community corrections officers, they are not on the stepped, the anniversary increase per year. They don't get that. So they would be set at that amount. The probation officers get a yearly bump up through the probation officer minimum standards. They get paid the minimum by statute. That's what's set. So I just want to make sure that there was a clarification of all that. And the executive committee in meeting, they really strongly recommended that you reconsider the recommendation from the wage committee, and that is to keep the salary at the level that it's been at for a couple of years. It doesn't get increased because it's not the yearly step up. So after I was at that meeting, and I brought it to the attention, and I was given the impression that they were going to follow the Wagner Erwin Shealy recommendation of the civilian pool 6. I texted the director, said everything's fine. Wagner Erwin Shealy recommendation was followed, and everything was fine. But then the department heads got a note from the auditor's office that confirmed all the actions that were taken last week, and it was brought out on that piece of paper exactly what Sue Ann mentioned, that it was going to stay at that level. When that note was issued, one of our community correction officers resigned and became a probation officer. So I just recommend you to reconsider not only the fact that these community correction officers have to have a bachelor's degree. If you can think of having a bachelor's degree hired at a $40,000 level, it's difficult, if not impossible. So that's why I'm encouraging you on behalf of the executive committee to stay with the Wagner Erwin Shealy recommendation of a civilian pool 6. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. part of that, Dan, is that I believe those wages are set at midpoint, not at the low point. And that's the reason, because they don't get incremental bumps. But they do get incremental bumps for whatever the county gets. So they do, in fact, increase every year. They are not stagnant wages. They are, in fact, moved up every year based on what every other employee gets. So they do benefit. I mean, I understand what you're saying. But they do then move to a 10-year chart once they get to the 10-year level. So,
as other civilian pools.
yes, yes.
And as you pointed out in an email, the civilian pool 6 is also comparative to a corporal jail officer.
Right,
Yep.
right. Okay,
I have a question. The civilian poll 6, what is that amount?
That amount is $45,490.
and for 23, the amount would be 47,310. That's what a civilian poll would be for.
And as
For
we
year
pointed out,
23.
yes, and as we pointed out last week, or as Barry pointed out last week, this money is generated through the grant and the user fees. It doesn't come out of the tax. It doesn't come out of the general budget.
Yeah, which, again, requires that we try to keep somewhat of a level playing field between all of the people that we're trying to keep happy, which is difficult, obviously.
Yes, and which also the advisory committee has that obligation too, so. Am I missing anything, judges?
Anybody else have anything that you want to say in favor? We're more than willing to listen. Anybody that wants to speak, we'll be glad to hear what you have to say. Anybody else? Seeing none, is there anybody here to speak against this particular issue? Okay, I don't know that we need to close this portion. I just wanted to give if there was somebody else that had a. So I think we just need to wait on this until we can kind of get to the end of the rest of these, and then we'll go back and address, or do you want to do these right now? I mean, I'm open to either one.
With the motion having been made on the Pat 1, you'll have to do another motion. The motion was accepted on a Pat 1, unless you want to pay for a Pat 1, which you don't.
Okay. So at this point, how do we want to proceed? Do we want to do it as let me get it right here, a civilian poll 7 with a $1,500 increase and a 4% increase, the $1,500 for 22, the 4% for 23, and do retro back to January 1 of 2022? Or do we want to do the 45,490, which is a civilian poll 6, which would set the 23 wage at 47,310? Those are two choices. We could have a whole lot of other choices, but
If we decided to do the Pat 6 at the 45,490 and put it into the 23 budget, then at least, I mean, if,
well,
at
the
least,
45,490 is the 22 budget.
right, that's, but if we chose that. But what I'm saying is, it's, right now, we're at an arbitrary amount anyway, correct? I mean,
Call it whatever you want. I guess
I
it
mean,
could be
like,
arbitrary.
it wasn't the wage committee's recommendation to do the 15?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, my recollection was it came back less, and we gave them more than what WIS recommended, because we felt like it was too low. But I don't have those documents in front of me, so I can't remember. But I feel like that it came back at like 12, either 1,000 or 1,200, and we decided to go ahead and bump them up to 1,500. Now, I don't remember if it was what civilian pool it was, but do you remember that?
I do not. Joni, do you have any recollection at all?
Yes, WIS's recommendation was a raise of $1,050, 1050. and we bumped it to 1,500.
Okay, but
That was for the home detention officers.
was that for, hang on a second, because I've got that here. Was that for the first, because, we heard back from them twice because the job descriptions were,
I don't think it changed after they came back, not that I recall. Do you remember, Joni?
It did not change.
It was kind of arbitrary, but we were arbitrarily increasing it,
Right.
to benefit them, not arbitrarily cutting it.
I checked with WIS's recommendation. I double-checked with Human Resources, and they did pass with a civilian pull 6.
yeah, I believe
They
what
what?
happened was the first one came back as a 7.
Oh,
The second one maybe came back as a 5, because this is the one dated June 22nd, which would have been, I believe, the last that we heard back from them. So,
But if we go to the poll 6, then we've increased the disparity from the jailer and the probation.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Correct. You're right. We've increased the difference, the difference between a jailer and probation, we've just increased that amount.
Probation goes up to 51 next year, which is in this black book.
based on a
One-
2-year employee, because I believe that's what these employees were they not?
It would be 3-year next year.
Okay, but they would have been based on a 2-year, which is where we would be establishing their wage for 22, which is how we would move forward to 23.
2-year last year for probation was 45,634.
45,
634.
634.
Yeah.
And 3 years, 51,001.
Their 22 wage was 44,163.
Right, and you have the 45,634 on our little chart that you wrote out, Sue Ann.
Yeah.
So we do have that for next year
Yes.
in our documents.
But Dan, you said probation is what next year?
Next year on a 3-year, which is what the officers will be in home detention. If they were a 3-year in probation, they'd make 51,001.
So what's this, we have on our sheet 45,634.
That was based on 2 years
2 years.
carried
Oh.
forward.
Okay.
Are you looking at 2023's salary guidelines or 2022?
I have both here,
yeah.
and both of them are listed here.
But,
Right off
but
of those
ours
lines.
is for a 2-year, right?
Yeah. As I say, the only difference is that we calculated it for a 2-year instead of a 3.
Yes.
I guess I don't feel comfortable in making a vote either way tonight. I would like to table it until next month so I can have a chance to review the minutes. I just don't feel comfortable. I would abstain from a vote even if we took one at this point. So I would like to have some more time to review what actually happened and where we should be. That would be my motion.
Okay, we have a motion to table that particular correction, change, adoption. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Question, how does that work with our timeframe of a final adoption?
So your next order of business would be to give me some direction for the '23 budget as far as what we want to have in there, because what you guys decide tonight are the final figures that I will put in your actual adoption paperwork for your next meeting. So if this is tabled, the discussion for '22 as well as '23, you guys just need to let me know, do I leave the figures in the budget that were originally given to me by Community Corrections in the beginning, our advertised budget? Stay with that. And then next year, in January, we would have to come and do salary ordinance amendment, budget reduction to get you in line with whatever it is that you decide in October.
Which would certainly simplify things for Michelle. If
Because
we
then the
merely-
appropriation would at least be there in the budget adoption, but of course, everything would be contingent on your decision in October. And then we would have everything in January to correct that, but we won't have to do an additional. We would just have to amend the salary ordinance going forward.
Sue Ann, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's enough in their original projected budget because there were additional positions that weren't filled. And there are 2 leadership positions and Barry's doing both. So I think if we table it, that should still be economically, I think we would be fine.
It's still,
Um,
yeah, the bottom line is, I believe when those positions were put in, they were put in at $54,000 apiece for 4 of them, so.
So in other words, we could go ahead and approve this budget and still make that change.
Right.
Is that correct?
We can table this motion.
No,
And then,
we would not want to table. We would want to move forward and say we're approving it at the 6th, and then we would be able to make an adjustment at the next meeting or not. We really don't have to because, as you pointed out, this is not tax dollars.
That's
So it has no bearing on what rate is collected. And that's the impetus. That's the reason why these things have to be those major funds that we're collecting taxes for. That's why that has to be done this month and next month. But those things can be done after the first of the year, which would not stop anything. But the one thing that we also have to remember is that if we're saying this is effective July 1st of 2022, we have to know what that amount is going to be. Otherwise, we're going to have their people waiting to get their money because we haven't decided what to give them.
could
Which-
we split it? Could we go ahead and do the increase going back to the July 1st and then basically decide on the other at the next meeting? So we would have that in 22 and we would know
You mean base the
that,
increase?
just base the increase on, just at least do the 1,500 and get it back, get it backdated so they get it. And then next meeting, we can deal with the 23, since it's already budgeted.
Yeah, but if we make a definitive decision on 22, I don't think we're going to go back again because by then, the goal would be to get the money in the people's hands that
Right.
we're trying to
That's right.
increase. We can't go back and then recalculate it a month and a half, 2 months later and say, oh, here's another little dribble. I mean, I don't think that's the right way to do business. That's my personal opinion. So,
So in
Sue Ann, you do have a motion and a second to table. You do, I need to-
okay, we have a motion and a second. Thank you, Joni.
But you're saying we do not want to do that?
No.
No.
Okay.
No.
Can
So we
I-
have a motion and a second to table.
Kimberly Cates, nay.
John Garber, nay.
Ernie Wiggins, nay.
Sue Mitchell, nay.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, nay.
Joni Truax, nay.
Okay, now we have a clean slate again. So,
Dan, can you assure me that if we were to increase them to a civilian poll 6, that they would not, their wages would not be more than a jailer or who's the other one we're comparing them to?
Probation.
probation.
Probation is legally regulated. We are given an amount that we must pay them, but they would not make more than a jailer. Is that correct?
Yes, they would.
They would.
The jailers have different salaries depending on their rank. Starting jailers, I think, come in at like 38, 39,
No,
37.
it's equal to jail corporal.
But yes.
That would put the home detention folks on the same level as a jail corporal, I believe.
According to your numbers, though, the probation in 2023, or excuse me, the civilian poll 6 in 2023 is 47,310, and a jailer is 45,557. So that would put them a couple grand over. Is that what you're saying, asking, Joni?
Yes.
The Pats, that would be, it'd put them, in 2023, it would put them about $2,000 over, or $1,800 over,
Not than a corporal.
correct?
A corporal jailer will make about the same as a home detention officer. I brought the jail budget too, just in case you had questions, but frankly, as you can see, the print is very small, and I'm getting older, and I didn't bring my glasses. So if you'd like to have them, you can. Okay.
I think one thing.
I don't want your glasses.
Oh. Good, because I need them. I think one thing, Joni, just as an encouragement to you and the team here is, I hear what you're saying, but I also would like to encourage us to think about apples and oranges and the different jobs that are being done here. And that the home detention officers, not only are they law enforcement officers, but they're also case managers with their caseload. They do intake processes, they do hookups, they monitor people, they do the case management. And as it was explained to the team here in front of us before, compared to other counties that have separate officers for each of those duties, these officers do 3. And so I think I'd like you just to remember that I think we're comparing apples and oranges here. I see what you're saying, I see your point, and I hear it, and I understand it, but I think that 2 cents also needs to be understood, or at least heard from our standpoint, that that we got to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges.
And we also have to remember that the advisory board requires these folks to have a bachelor's degree. Jailers do not need a bachelor's degree.
Point made. Okay, I make a motion that we move them to a civilian poll 6, effective July 1st, pay them at that rate retro for the remainder of 22, and then whatever the rate ends up being for 23.
Also as a civilian poll 6. Okay.
That is what was requested, right, Dan?
Yes, ma'am.
And I show that as 45,490 for 22 and 47,310 for 2023.
If that 4%, yes.
Okay,
That's what you're requesting.
We are, correct?
Yes, just what the request.
Yes.
okay.
And
So-
I'll second that.
So Joni motioned, and we have a second. All those in favor, Kim, it's your turn again.
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
I just do have one more question. At the end of our conversation when we were doing the budget, we talked a little bit about caseload. So what is the caseload of those home detention officers?
Come on up, Barry.
We currently have, I think, 65 on, but we also lost an officer. So we're dividing that caseload up now between the 3 that we have left. So
65 total or 65 each?
total,
or- okay.
total,
So,
22?
okay,
22-ish, 22-ish.
Cases, okay.
okay. Because we were told a number much lower than that when we
Well, it
when
might
we
have been
talked.
though, since you lost one
Well, I've
though.
lost one since the last time,
No.
you probably,
The number of cases you were handling, each person.
okay.
I believe what Dan shared was 12 to 15.
No, I was looking off of this, and I was sharing with you the numbers on the other average caseloads.
So
So
the
they
other
were-
people who only carry 12 to 15 are paid at that rate? That's what you're saying
They're all
now?
paid at that rate.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then when I ask about needing more help, your answer was there's no place to put them. So we get that. We
Yeah,
get
I mean,
that.
there's no place to put them, and I'm thankful for your vote this evening too, and this will help attract more qualified and people to come fill this position that we have available, so I'm thankful for that. So it's very, very much appreciated.
Great,
Well,
thank
we
you.
appreciate the
Thank
work you do.
I'm sorry this has been such a long, drawn-out process. There's been a lot of time, I think you all know, the Wage Committee has spent an exorbitant amount of time on this particular topic. And I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you coming this evening to try to explain again where you thought we were versus where we think we are, and I think we're there.
Thank you very much.
And thanks for your comparison.
Thank you.
That was good.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask the auditor. Michelle, are we good with everything we've taken care of here? We've clarified what needs to be clarified.
Yes, perfectly clear.
Okay. Moving right along. The Health Department. Probation wasn't on my list, but you're more than welcome to come up.
Okay. I know that, I guess I was under the impression that the Wage Committee approved the Assistant Chief Probation Officer. I thought everybody said yay. Apparently not, but I just wanted to clarify some things. The budget for we have 13 probation officers, including myself, and we have 3 support staff. The budget is actually, for their salaries are going down. We lost 2 probation officers, 1 retired, 1 moved away, that are on the highest level. I hired somebody from Community Corrections who is going to make $20,000 less than the person who she replaced. And I have an interview tomorrow with somebody who will probably make $20,000 less. So the budget is going to go down immensely. That's pretty much a whole person. I'm not asking for a whole person. I'm asking for an assistant. The difference in the salary would be $5,000. The probation user's fee pays $100,000 in reimbursement as now, and I would certainly ask if I could pay another $5,000 to get the assistant chief. I understand that the count, you guys have a horrible job getting budgets, making everybody happy, I get that. But I've been doing this for almost 10 years. I've never asked for this, and probation's getting really, really hard. And I've had a lot of meetings, and I'm just, excuse me, I'm just really hoping that I will take user fee and pay it out of user fee if I can get that position approved. I would never speak for the judges, 2 of them are here, but if you remember in the Wage Committee letter information that I gave the Wage Committee, all 5 judges approved it. I don't know that they are going to sign anything that they don't think is appropriate. So that's where I'm at with that.
So,
Tammy, are you offering to pay the entire wage or the $5,000 difference?
No, I'm the 5,000 to increase the probation officer.
yeah, she can't.
I mean, we paid up until, I think it was 2018, we paid almost like $250,000 a year in salary reimbursement for a long time. We just could not sustain that. So now probation repays $100,000 of the salary, and we're doing okay with that. And if it takes paying another $5,000 for out of probation user's fee to get an assistant, I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, we cannot use any other money to supplant what your wages are. We cannot. I believe you could use it for that's a new, but existing people, we can't say, okay, we're going to cut your budget and move it over here. I believe I'm correct that the law does not allow that to happen.
Well,
So if you're volunteering, if I'm hearing what you're saying, so where are you thinking you would pay that $5,000? Tell me again.
out of probation user's fee to increase an existing probation officer's salary.
Michelle, do we have a balance on that, or do you have a balance of that account? That particular fund, I mean?
I don't.
Okay.
I did not
Okay.
run that for this evening.
Okay.
Tammy, could you explain what she would be doing or he would be doing for that $5,000?
A lot of it would be quality control to make sure we've got some new officers coming in, to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that they're doing their case notes how they're supposed to, kind of training the new people. I'm at a lot of meetings, so she would be the next chain of command up. There are days, on Mondays, I'm never in the office, I'm in court all day. I've got meetings at 8 in the morning sometimes, and I'm gone for a couple hours. And so it would just be another chain of command. This person would still have when I checked today, we had over 1,200 people on probation. We've done almost 300 pre-sentence reports in the first 2 quarters. And probation has changed so much. It's just not about making sure people get out. There's so much other stuff that we have to do. And again, I'm not asking for a whole new position. We got those a couple years ago, which I'm grateful for. Just a little bit of help.
And at the beginning, I'm sorry, did you mention that you have 3 other support people?
We have 3 support staff and 13 officers, including myself.
Okay, and those other support people are doing paperwork?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Seeing that
Answer
things.
phones, do payroll, things like that.
Okay.
We hear users fee thrown out a lot. How is that established? When was it increased last? Do you have any of that information?
So I think it was 2 years ago, we were able to increase the monthly user fee that felons pay from 25 to 30. That's the highest we can charge them. It's paid through people on probation. They pay a monthly fee. We also have MRT that we teach, we charge them a little bit for that.
So you said it's the highest you can charge them. Is that by state statute?
Statute,
Okay.
yes. There's a $100 initial fee and a $100 administration fee. And then but if they don't pay, it'd be great if they all paid, but we all know they're not all going to pay. And there's not a whole lot we can do, quite frankly, if they don't.
So may I make a motion?
Certainly.
I would like to make a motion that we include your request along with making it on record that you'll pay the 5,000 difference from the user fees on the salary.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
That's second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kim, it's your turn.
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
I do
now-
have one follow-up question to that.
Uh-huh. Okay.
No, you're fine. You can come, you might need to answer it. Okay, so on the budget that was presented and advertised for the adult probation user fees, there is $100,000 in the mandated increased reimbursement line item. There's also $18,154 in a part-time line item. So is this the case where you would like to reduce the part-time line item by that 5,000 and then put it in the reimbursement line item so we have that entire 105,000 available for this reimbursement?
That would be fine. We don't usually use that.
Okay.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. Thanks for clarifying, Michelle. That means we don't have to go back and look at that one again next month. Okay, moving right along, the Health Department has a prenatal grant. That prenatal grant is paying for a prenatal nurse. That position is 11,353. That amount was budgeted, but there is not going to be enough money in that fund because that money is no longer coming in like it was. So Fund 1206 is to be used. That's where it'll be taken from, and that is the health rate that is collected through property tax. So I believe that we need to identify that the money that is paid first needs to come from the grant, and then it needs to come from the health tax dollars, and that those health tax dollars would not be moved or used in any other way other than to finish out the year with that prenatal person. So would somebody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to use the grant money first, to use the health actual tax dollars second, and that the money would not be moved.
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Okay, next, the 911 General Fund. As we listened to the budget be presented, it was mentioned that there was a need for telephone system that was going to be, I believe, someplace close to $68,000. And that is something that ARPA money could probably be used for. So at that point, we suggested that the 911 folks apply for an ARPA grant in order to pay for that. Subsequent to that, they have gotten a new quote that's only $42,000 or someplace in that neighborhood. So the amount is much less. For that one, I believe that we need to say that that money cannot be transferred to anything else. $68,000 cannot be transferred to any place else. We have to leave it in because if the ARPA committee does not approve being able to spend it, we would have no way to pay for it. So we leave it in, we put that caveat in that it cannot be used for any other purpose other than if the radios are not provided by ARPA. Would somebody like to?
So moved.
I'm confused, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay, so they originally wanted 68,000, which we looked at. Now you're saying they have a quote for 42,000. If we approve the 68,000 with caveat they can't use it for anything else, and they only spend 42,000, what happens to the balance?
it just remains there because that's a non-reverting fund. It doesn't go someplace else. So it would just be carried in their balance and carry over to the following year.
And there would not be a problem with ARPA with that? Aren't we under a use it or lose it clause?
Yeah, but this isn't spending the ARPA money, that's leaving it in their regular budget. And then if ARPA money is used, then it's not going to be spent out of that. ARPA money would then be spent out of, I mean, it would come from the ARPA fund to pay whatever the cost is for that telephone system.
Okay, and then the other money would just sit there at this point.
Right, right. Because it's a non-reverting fund, it's not going back, it's not going anywhere.
Thank you for clarifying that.
No problem, no problem. Okay, tell me where I'm at. Did we have
made a motion.
Thank you. And we had a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving that?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Okay, that carries. The next one is the auditor's budget. In the general fund, some time ago, I'm just going to give the prelude to it, and then I'm going to let Michelle share her thoughts with it. But in the prelude to it, when Michelle hired a part-time person, it was agreed that as soon as the next person was to leave as a counter deputy, that position would be taken off the table and it would not be funded because the work was going down out there in the front room of the auditor's office. And so that's where we've left it. And I'm going to let Michelle share where she's at with that then.
Yes, thank you. So I had several conversations with an employee in my office, and she let me know that her intent was to retire at the end of this year at 22. So when I prepared the budget, I did not put that position in the budget because that was the arrangement that I had made with council previously. At this point, she has come back to me and she's changed her mind as far as retirement, so she would like to stay. So I'm coming to you this evening to ask that that position be placed back in the budget. I do want to add to what Sue Ann stated as far as the workload being decreased in the front room. We also have a legislative change that takes effect January 1, where mortgage deductions are being eliminated. And I have one full-time employee that all they do is do deductions day in and day out. And that's going to be at least 50% of what that one person does. So because of the efficiencies and the legislative changes actually assisting us with our workload, that workload is still continuing to decrease.
So I'm just going to add on to that. I believe then, because Michelle had made that agreement, I believe that whenever the next person is who is leaving as a counter deputy, that that position does need to go away. We've got evidence that the task will be less, but I also know that there are other offices that would probably be willing to take some extra help. And so it's not like those people, I don't want the public to think we're just got people sitting at a desk doing nothing, because that is not going to happen. I can tell you, anybody that knows Michelle, they should know that that is not going to happen. People don't just sit and do nothing, so.
They don't. We have worked and scanned every transfer book, every plat book, every commissioners and council record, deeds back to 1970, to have in our information, all deductions are scanned and indexed just to increase those efficiencies in our office. But because the county and multiple offices went in together to purchase the equipment, and we have used it more than anybody else in the county, and it has been great. And that's been filler projects for our downtime because of those efficiencies. We've also worked with the clerk's office and helped them scan in their marriage records. So at this point, I'm on the last project that my office currently has, so we'll be approaching Ann again about us picking up and helping her in her office, because, yeah, we do try our best to make sure that everybody is as busy as possible, and have always opened the door to assist other offices with projects that they have, and will continue to do so.
I make a motion that we approve the auditor's request to place the payroll back into the budget.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Gerber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
So then would we want to add the caveat to include that it's not a position to be filled after, if, with the next person that's leaving?
I think that already stands because that agreement's already been made. Do you think we need to reiterate that?
I think it would be good to indicate that in the minutes.
Okay, then my motion, we've already approved, I make the motion that that position would not be filled due to the efficiencies the auditor's department has made, and if a position is vacated, that it is not replaced.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Kim?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Gerber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Okay, now that we have addressed all of these issues, now it's time to open the public budget hearing. And at this point, is there anybody here that would like to speak against the budget? Is there anybody here that would like to speak against the budget? Is there anybody here that wants to speak in favor of the budget? Is there anybody here that wants to speak in favor of the budget? I feel like I'm an auctioneer, folks. Is there, so at this point, I just need a motion to need a motion and a second to close this portion.
So moved.
I move.
Okay, one of you is going to have to be second. How about Joni be second? So that closes this portion of the public hearing. And we as a council will make the final budget approval at our meeting on the 13th of October.
Do I have to say aye?
Yes.
Yes.
Kimberly
Sorry.
Cates, aye.
John Gerber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Thank you. Motion carried. Okay, moving right along. I believe we are to
The minutes.
the minutes.
Did we need to add anything?
There there was a, I saw something that needed to be changed. Can I make a change?
Yep.
Go ahead.
On page 5, where it says, in the matter of the Wage Committee recommendation, Superior Court, 1, JDI coordinators, about halfway down, it says Alternative Initiative JDAI is a grant funded by the state, which the county has utilized since 2001.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that is.
So that would have been 2000
17,
Nine.
18? What, Karen, when was JDI? Is it 17?
Yeah.
18. That should be corrected to 18, 2018.
2018, okay.
I think the minutes should indicate that it was Thursday, August 11th, not Friday.
Yes. Anybody have anything else?
Did we need to include a billing on the transfer of funds?
So I'm not sure if I am remembering correctly or if I am not. I believe Ernie made the motion that we would look at the legal fees on a monthly basis and that there would be information provided, reference how the money had been spent. Perhaps that's a misnomer. Maybe for tonight, we leave it, and as we address Carrie's request tonight, perhaps we can address it then. Okay? So now do I have a motion to approve
I
the
move that
minutes?
we approve the minutes with the corrections that's mentioned.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Wait,
Oh, I'm sorry, Kim.
can you read the middle of that page on page 3?
On page 3.
Yeah. So those were submitted correctly?
Okay, so
So
the
the-
minutes do read invoices for further legal services will be submitted by the 15th of the month. Councilman Wiggins stated he was not comfortable with the $50,000, instead made a motion for 5 that was then amended to include what was going to the highway for 10.
My reference was are those invoices submitted by the 15th of the month? I don't know.
Like I said,
For-
maybe
for
we
later.
just come back and
Yeah.
address it when Carrie's here, and that way we can clear
Yeah.
that one up. Okay. Did we have a motion? John
did.
made a motion.
Second.
Somebody seconded it. All those
Kimberly
in-
Kate's aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, I'm abstaining because I was not here last month.
Joni Truax, aye.
Okay, so we are now down to the part that usually takes us about 5 seconds. Now we're ready to get into the rest of the stuff. Okay, so the ARPA committee recommendation, the ARPA committee had agreed that we would put $1.2 million into this HELP project. And did I see Amy?
She's back there.
Okay. I thought I saw you come in, but you faded into the back, honey.
There are a lot more people here today.
Hi there. So if you want to share a little bit about where you're at and that the 1.2 is a placeholder, basically?
Yes. So we are currently in phase 3 of the program. And during phase 3, the committee members, so there are 48 from each of the 5 communities, Milford, Mentone, Etna Green, Pearson, and, did I forget one? Etna
County.
Green. And what was that?
The county.
And the county. Oh, I can't forget the county.
Oh, us,
I'm here. I'm used to running to the other communities. And so those community members have reviewed projects and have put high-level lists together of what we call a project presentation document. So it's just project names and description of the projects. We have had all of the communities basically put those projects before their town boards, except for Etna Green, because they're on a different schedule. And so the next phase for the project would be to have the committees fill out the project worksheets and/or program worksheets and move through that process. So the initial thought for the county side of everything was, because we ultimately don't have the final information, numbers, budget numbers, details, it would make the most sense for the county to have the ARPA committee choose a number to move forward with, and then when those project or program descriptions are complete, to have the commissioners and the council review those decisions later. So today is basically just to say that $1.2 million is what we want to move forward with.
And so what you're saying is on the projects, the individual projects that you want, then you're going to bring those back to us
Yes,
for whatever that amount may be.
yes. So
Down-
that, from
down
what
to
I understand,
specifics,
Michelle,
yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, I was rereading emails just to make sure I followed everything. But we are only asking for the money to be earmarked tonight because we don't have all the final details. Our hope is that we will have the information to be able to present in October. And so that is going to be dependent upon what Okra does with our CDBG conversation and also when the committee members are able to complete their worksheets. They are to have them done by October 1st, but we will see how that process works.
So,
I make,
go ahead, Jenny.
I was just going to make a motion to approve the 1.2 million as a placeholder for the HELP program, which we agreed to with the Okra grant.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
You guys,
Attorney Truex, aye.
I came very prepared. You guys made that very easy.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along, Dan Hampton for a transfer request.
Transfer request from prosecuting attorney investigator full-time to prosecuting attorney's part-time account. I'm using that for investigators for part-time. I'm trying to economize the funds by reducing the salary, using part-time help. I did that last year, and I've been doing it this year.
And it would still be an investigative position.
It is.
Does anybody have any questions of Dan?
Make a motion to approve the request.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Attorney Truex, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience, Dan.
Thank you.
It looks like the county administrator is making his way forward.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Well, the first one here is on the additional appropriations for the American Rescue Plan. Pretty much, we voted on this as far as to spend the ARPA dollars, but this is now the additional appropriation for that money to be sent out then to the Lakeland Sewer District for those two projects that have been selected there, so.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kimberly?
Oh, Kimberly, aye. Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Attorney Truex, aye.
Awesome, thank you. Then the next one we have, I can move on to the next one, right?
You sure can.
The next one is just a salary ordinance amendment for our system administrator. So we're in the process, we have a candidate selected that is committed to come to work for us, which we're super excited about because this is an area that we've really been trying to get, find that right person to really start to train and start to take the bull by the horns, because we've got two people, the two individuals are going to be retiring into our beginning of 24, right? So we're trying to get this up to speed. So we do have somebody found, and he's agreed to come to work. I think he comes the first part of October 10th, I think, somewhere around there. And we're adjusting some salaries there to try and get it in line to where we can keep everybody happy. So try to. So
The wage committee recommended that we do this in light of Paul's years of service to raise his salary once somebody was brought in.
So I'll make a motion to approve this.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kimberly?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Attorney Truex, aye.
Okay, so that motion carries.
thank you. Then I'll probably come back on the other stuff at the end if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. Matt Sandy. Good evening, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
I'm here asking for additional appropriations for our legal fund. We're looking for additional $15,000. Our legal fund's always a moving target for us. A lot of it depends on who we get sued with. We've had a couple major cases where we've been pulled along without choice. So that's depleted some of our funds. We did, since June, we've brought in $14,500 in settlement fees. We do look for settlement fees when we do have a case that we're having to pursue. So we're trying to cover our costs there as much as possible as well. So that's what we're here for.
And so, Matt, what you're saying is in 2022, you brought in about 14.5?
Yes, so far. Yeah.
And so what was the amount that you were spending and then adding the 15? So what is it about that we've spent so far?
What's our current budget down to?
Yes, yes, sir.
Give me just a moment here. So our current legal fees for 22 were 23,000.
Okay.
So we depleted that down. We'd always ask for more, but we don't know. You know, our hope is never to have to spend any of it,
Right.
but we have to sometimes.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions? Could we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Kimberly?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Gerber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Thank you.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Jenny Truax, aye.
Okay, moving right along, the coroner.
I think he'd indicated that he's not going to be here. My understanding, he's out of town.
So this is our lab and autopsy account. Due to an increase in the number of autopsies, this account is short.
So
That's the
Mich-
explanation.
So Michelle, it shows the fund balance at 15,443.
This is within the county general fund, so that's the cash balance of the entire county general fund at 15,443,119.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, you are absolutely fine. Yeah, because this falls under the umbrella, so
Gotcha.
it's just part of county general.
So is this the restocking of shelves you mentioned at budget time?
No, this is for
Autopsies.
the lab
Autopsies.
expenses, the autopsies for 2022. Currently, his funds are depleted. We've exhausted them at this point, so he is coming back and asking for this additional to cover him, hopefully for the end of the year.
I remember him at our budget session saying that we could be expected to hear for an additional appropriation because of the number of autopsies he's had. So I would move for approval.
But
I'll
we-
second that. Go ahead.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
Yeah, I guess my concern, I had a concern in regards to if we go year over year, last year and this year both, the budget on this account was 55,000. And right now, we're at 75,000. Just for this year, it was 68,000 last year. So I think that maybe needs to be revisited from the new person. Is there any way to ask to see how many autopsies we actually do year over year?
I'm sure that they do have those in the records in the coroner's office. One thing I can assure you through the audit process in the auditor's office, that we are not paying for anything other than these specific expenses out of this account number. And I know, as Tony has shared with us in the past, you don't know what you need until that phone rings and you're brought to that case, and then he has his protocol that they utilize. So I know we would love to never spend a dollar out of this account, but as life happens, he's put in those specific situations. But I do know it fluctuates and just depends on the call volume.
Well, just the obituaries this year, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just,
Yeah, he did indicate autopsies were way up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? The question, Kimberly?
Oh, Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Gerber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Jenny Truax, aye.
Motion carries. Shane?
Hey,
Aye.
Shane.
I come before you guys asking for additional appropriations for $80,000 from the county general to our gas and oil account, our line item. As I kind of shared with you in June when I was up here, kind of gave that forewarning. I know county highway went to you guys already. We were fortunate enough to drag it out as long as we have, but If you need, we made up a expenditure information sheet of how much we actually spent, and as you can, it falls in line with how the gas prices went. I mean, it was at the beginning of the year, it was averaged around 16,000, and it's jumped up in the high to 28, 25,000 in the middle of summer. And that's,
Which is,
prices went up, plus our call volume goes up. That's kind of the nature of our beast in our profession, so.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Also, I'd just like to add, we do have our merit board meeting coming up next Wednesday. And Stan, our pension gentleman's going to come up. I'd like to give you that invite out
Great.
to you guys again.
I think
Would
we're
you
gonna-
like to tell us what time and where?
11:30 in our training room.
And I think we were planning.
That's where
on
we
doing-
have our monthly meeting in the same place. So if you guys are interested, we'll watch for you. We'll definitely walk you back there. And
It's next Wednesday, did you say?
Next Wednesday, yes, at 11:30.
Thank you.
So, all right, hope to see you guys there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and then the next item is the community corrections and the salary ordinance amendment.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, probation. JDAI, I'm sorry.
You're up, Judge.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Judge McGrath, that I did not do that correctly.
Fine, thank you. I am here as well asking for an additional appropriation. It is to continue to pay the co-coordinators of the JDAI program, the initiative, that we are fortunate to receive to the tune of $70,000 in grant money for this program, but it doesn't cover the co-coordinators' cost, and there's just simply no program without coordinators. So looking to have this additional appropriation out of juvenile probation user fees. As I mentioned, the two probation officers were being paid through the grant to the tune of $12,500 a year. And that grant by design ceased paying for them to continue coordinating starting this year.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amount requested.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Kimberly?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Thank you so much.
Okay, community corrections and the salary.
Yes, and I would request that we table this one to the next meeting so they can reflect the changes that you guys
Okay.
agreed upon earlier.
Because we don't have the specific dollars
Yes, because
now.
this was based off the previous recommendation of the civilian pool 7, and now we know we're going to a 6.
So moved.
Second. Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell reluctantly aye, because I was hoping we could get this finished, but that's okay.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Okay, Michelle, encumbrances.
Yes, I'd have one small encumbrance for the highway department for their Cume Bridge. The total is $5,996.40. This is the final encumbering that is attached to our Cume Bridge request that they give us prior to budget time. So we were expecting this encumbrance to come through.
This is for skid loader brush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
The attachment,
the broom attachment for the
Yeah.
skid loader.
yeah, the broom attachment.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Kimberly?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
I would like to point out one small fact, that prior to this meeting tonight, we had actually done additional appropriations of only $55,000. And tonight, we did $110,000, or $115,000 worth. So we're on the upward tick. We did very well all year long, trying to keep it as low as we could. Gasoline obviously was a culprit, at least to the general fund. I'm sorry, I need to clarify, that was to the general fund. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that the departments have done a good job in keeping down what their requests were, and therefore, we've not overexpended what we expected to expend. Okay,
Do we need
now
a-
then.
Are we
to
done?
Carrie.
Carry.
Oh.
Good evening. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the legal fees here. You know, we do have our July bill in, which was just right at the $2,000 for July. So currently, our account balance is at $15,050. So I mean, we haven't spent any of the money that was appropriated at our last meeting yet because we've not received the bill because it's not due till the 15th of this next month. I have a verbal conversation with Ed earlier this week. You know, we're going to be underneath our $5,000 limit for this month of August, I guess it would be. You know, we do have several things going on. You know, we're looking at piece of property and lots of different things that are happening, but, you know, we're doing our best that we can to try and keep the costs down as much as possible. So, I know that we talked about having an additional appropriation tonight. You know, we haven't spent the first 5,000 yet, but at the same token, by the time we get around to the next one, we may not have enough to cover that because we're trying to keep those two pots separate of the $10,000 for the county highway and the $5,000 that you're giving the commissioners each month as best we can, so.
Okay, but I don't believe we
So-
advertised for an additional for tonight, did we? or did
We have a transfer
Just a transfer.
Right,
that
just a
I
transfer.
Oh,
did
that's right. I'm
email
sorry.
everybody to the last minute. And just to add a little bit to that, what Carrie's stating, I did speak with Marcia today, and we're trying to navigate our new process and have those funds available. And even though we do not have the August bill yet, we do have those dollars set aside. We did feel that it was important to submit this transfer for September because we don't want to hit the end of the year and do what we did in 2021. So we want to make sure we have the funds there available for when we receive that December invoice in January. But we've transferred enough funds in 2022 to cover it in 22's budget without eating into our 23. And once we get a couple bills from Ed, so we can see where we're ending in August and September, maybe these amounts can be adjusted depending on the work that we have. But we don't have enough history to say that now. But we want to make sure through this fluid process that we end the year at your December meeting, which will be early December before we receive the December bill, that we have enough cash reserves there to pay whatever that bill is going to be for December, so we don't deplete 23 unnecessarily.
Now, is this $2,000 amount that you speak of, is this based off of some of the things you have put on hold? that are gonna come
Well,
back
if you
around?
remember, we stopped all legal fees until we got an additional appropriation, so there was only, we didn't overspend our budget, so we stopped him in July before we overspent our budget.
So will that come back around then as increased fees later?
No, I mean, he didn't have any, I mean, there wasn't any work done past that. It wasn't just what was billed, there wasn't any work done past that, so.
Okay.
So we're up to date up till when we re-engaged, which was after the 11th, I think, whenever the
Yeah.
last commissioner meeting was in August.
Okay.
But it's only been a couple weeks, so. Well, or I guess a little longer than that now, 3 weeks.
I think something that would be helpful, Carrie, is as those requests are made, that the bills be attached as supporting document as to where you are.
Right.
Just because,
This one, to be honest, I didn't think the council meeting was this quick.
we didn't either, okay?
It was like the 11th or the 8th, it's like, wow, how does this happen? So it's like,
Okay.
this was kind of a thing yesterday, me and March started thinking about, it, and I think she got Michelle in on it, it's like, well, what do we want to do here? So my apologies for that, so.
No problem. So would somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a
that
motion
we-
for approve the transfer.
Okay, and do you want to
Second.
add to that the bills
Yes,
in the future?
so moved.
Okay. That the bills will be accompanying any requests, so we know
Right.
exactly where we're at, and we're all transparent, and life is good. Okay. We have a motion and a second.
Second.
Kimberly?
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Carrie.
Carrie. Thank you. Anybody else have anything to come? Mr. Rock has something to come.
Hello, Ed.
I am not here for an additional appropriation. I am not here to change wages. But I would like to request the opportunity to submit 2 grants by September 30th. The first one, both of them are EMPG, which is Emergency Management Performance Grants. The first one would be salary reimbursement for 2023. That would be to the tune of $55,000. And after doing some number crunching, if things go the way I expect them to, we're going to be at about $54,920. So we used about everything we could out of that, or we will. The other one is a $20,000 competitive grant. And I still need to identify exactly what that's going to be used for, but it would be something to enhance the emergency management agency.
I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any
I have a
discussion?
question. Are these reimbursable grants?
Yes, I'm sorry, I should have said that. Actually, the $55,000, we're going to pay wages throughout the year, and then towards the end of the year, well, actually, after the first of the next year, we will submit to get that $55,000 in one lump sum. Well, somebody will submit for that.
Okay, and the deadlines to apply for these, I assume, are fast approaching?
September 30th.
Thank you. Okay.
Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Mike Long, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye.
Hi, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Did it go to the dead letter office, maybe?
Probably that open seat you guys just made.
No, we allowed the seat to be filled. Let's be clear here, so we don't have a misunderstanding. Okay, does anybody else have anything to come before the council this evening? Anybody have anything else? Thank you all. You are patient souls. This has been a pretty deep dive into a lot of things this evening, and I do appreciate you being here, and I also appreciate you staying here. And now I'd appreciate if you went home so we can.
So I make a motion, we adjourn?
Surely. Oh,
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to second that. Kimberly Cates, aye.
John Garber, aye.
Ernie Wiggins, aye.
Sue Mitchell, aye.
Kathy Groninger, aye.
Joni Truax, aye, and goodbye.
While we may all laugh and have a good time with this, this is serious business, and we do understand that, but it's important that we all at least enjoy each other's company and laugh occasionally, so don't fault us for laughing.
The recording has stopped. That went pretty well. That went pretty well.
Where's that at? Oh, okay. That's not so bad.